Imagine a world where every thought you have doesn't just stay in your mind. It changes your life, your reality, even your destiny. Sounds wild, right? Well, that's exactly what Dr. Joe Dispenza explores in Evolve Your Brain, the science of changing your mind. You're about to discover how your thoughts shape your entire existence, and how you can take control, literally reshaping your mind to transform your life. Here's something mind-blowing. Scientists now say we have around 60,000 thoughts per day. But here's the shocker. Almost 90% of them are the same as the day before. Imagine what would happen if you broke that cycle and started thinking in new, empowering ways. This isn't just a good idea. It's the foundation for changing your entire reality. Want more proof? Studies show that people who learn to change their thought patterns not only experience better mental health, but also improve their physical health, with reduced risks of heart disease, better immune function, and even faster recovery rates. Imagine the power you'd have if you could actually rewire your brain for happiness, confidence, and resilience. Dr. Joe has dedicated his life to this research after a personal tragedy left him with a broken spine. Doctors said he'd never walk again, but he refused to believe it. Using nothing but the power of his mind, he visualized his recovery every day until he defied the odds and walked out of that hospital. His story is the ultimate proof that we have untapped potential waiting to be unlocked. Welcome to MindFlex Audiobooks, your ultimate destination for audiobook summaries that don't just inform, but inspire change. Today we're about to embark on an in-depth journey through Evolve Your Brain, the science of changing your mind. Ready to break free from the ordinary and step into the extraordinary? Let's dive in. Chapter 1. Beginnings. Let's start at the beginning, the story of human potential. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to unlock extraordinary abilities while others remain stuck in the status quo? In Evolve Your Brain, Dr. Joe Dispenza unpacks the secrets of human transformation, revealing that greatness isn't reserved for the chosen few but accessible to all of us. This first chapter is about setting the stage. Dr. Joe starts by painting a vivid picture of human potential. He reminds us that throughout history, people have achieved extraordinary feats, often going beyond what was thought possible. This includes scientific discoveries, athletic triumphs, and artistic masterpieces. Dr. Joe argues that the human brain is inherently capable of evolving and adapting to new challenges. But here's the catch: to unlock this potential, we must first believe that change is possible. This idea may sound simple, but belief is a powerful psychological barrier. We think we're just ordinary or not special. We create a mental cage around ourselves. These beliefs become deeply ingrained patterns in our neural circuits, making it hard to break free. Dr. Joe explains that these limiting beliefs keep our brains stuck in survival mode, preventing us from tapping into the deeper layers of creativity, focus, and resilience. Research shows that our thoughts and beliefs directly affect our behaviors, and in turn our outcomes. When we believe something is possible, our brain's chemistry shifts, and our focus sharpens. We begin to notice opportunities, take calculated risks, and push ourselves beyond our comfort zones. Dr. Joe argues that this process is the foundation of all personal growth. To evolve, we need to start believing in the possibility of change. Now that we understand the importance of belief, let's move on to Chapter 2, where Dr. Joe introduces us to the evolutionary roots of our brain. Stay tuned to learn how ancient instincts shape our modern lives. Chapter 2. On the Back of a Giant. Did you know that your brain carries millions of years of evolutionary history? Imagine having the wisdom of countless generations encoded within you, and yet, many of us remain unaware of this remarkable legacy. In this chapter, Dr. Joe explores the evolutionary journey of the human brain. He describes our brain as standing on the back of a giant, a metaphor for the countless adaptations that helped our ancestors survive. This evolutionary legacy shapes how we react to stress, fear, and even joy. While modern life is vastly different from prehistoric times, our brain's architecture still carries remnants of those ancient survival mechanisms. Our brain has evolved in layers, with the oldest being the reptilian brain. This part of the brain governs basic survival functions, like fight or flight responses. When you're in danger, this part of the brain reacts instantly, often without rational thought. While useful for ancient humans who faced physical threats daily, This same mechanism can cause overreactions to minor stressors today, like getting an unpleasant email or a bad grade on an exam. Above the reptilian brain is the limbic brain, responsible for emotions. This part evolved later and allows us to feel connected, nurturing, and emotionally driven. It's why we feel loyalty to friends, empathy toward strangers, and anger toward those who harm us. The limbic brain is also crucial for forming memories, especially emotional ones, which is why powerful experiences stick with us. Understanding these layers helps us see why certain situations trigger intense emotional responses. They're not just reactions, but deeply embedded survival tactics. So what happens when we want to override these instinctual responses? To learn more about the mechanics of thought and action, let's dive into Chapter 3, where Dr. Joe introduces us to the nervous system and its role as an information superhighway. Chapter 3, Neurons in the Nervous System. Traveling the original information superhighway. What if I told you that your body is constantly processing millions of pieces of information every second? This superhighway of neural connections is the very foundation of how we think, feel, and act. But how does it actually work? In this chapter, Dr. Joe provides a fascinating look at the nervous system, describing it as an intricate network of neurons that send electrical signals throughout our body. This system is what allows us to perceive, interpret, and respond to the world around us. Dr. Joe likens it to an information superhighway, constantly processing data to help us survive, adapt, and thrive. Each neuron in our brain is like a tiny relay station, passing signals to other neurons through structures called synapses. The more often these signals are transmitted, the stronger these synaptic connections become, creating what we might think of as mental shortcuts. This is how habits form repetitive actions, strengthen certain neural pathways, making those behaviors almost automatic. Dr. Joe explains that every thought we have can influence the strength and formation of neural pathways. Positive goal-oriented thoughts reinforce circuits related to confidence and creativity, while negative self-doubting thoughts strengthen pathways associated with fear and anxiety. Essentially, we are shaping our brains every day through the thoughts we think. The more intentional we are about this, the more we can mold our neural superhighway to lead us toward success, resilience, and growth. But what if these neural pathways are not serving us? In the next chapter, we'll explore the three brains and how they interact to shape our experiences and responses. Chapter 4, Our Three Brains and More. Did you know you actually have three brains? Yes, three distinct systems within your head, each playing a unique role in how you think, feel, and respond. So what are these three brains, and how do they work together? In this chapter, Dr. Joe breaks down the concept of the triune brain, the idea that we have three major brain regions, each with its own functions. These are the reptilian brain, the limbic brain, and the neocortex. The reptilian brain, as we learned, governs basic survival, handling instincts like hunger and fear. The limbic brain is responsible for emotions and memories, while the neocortex, the most recently evolved part of the brain, manages higher thinking, reasoning, and creativity. When these three brains work in harmony, we feel balanced and in control. For example, if you encounter a stressful situation, your reptilian brain might trigger a fight-or-flight response. Meanwhile, your limbic brain generates emotions related to the event, and your neocortex helps you analyze the situation and choose an appropriate response. However, if one brain overpowers the others, we might experience an imbalance, like freezing in fear or reacting impulsively without thinking things through. Dr. Joe explains that personal growth involves learning to align these three brains. Let's say you want to start a new habit, like exercising daily. Your neocortex knows it's good for you, but your limbic brain might resist because it's emotionally uncomfortable, and your reptilian brain craves comfort and routine. By practicing mindfulness and self-discipline, you can train all three brains to support your goals, making change feel less like a struggle and more like a natural evolution. Understanding the functions of our three brains is just the start. Next, let's explore how we are wired by nature, but changeable by nurture, a crucial insight for anyone looking to reinvent themselves. Chapter 5, Wired by Nature, Changeable by Nurture. Did you know that you are both a product of your genetics and a masterpiece in progress? Imagine that, while we're shaped by our DNA. We also have the power to reshape ourselves to become whoever we want to be. Sounds impossible? Let's dive into how that works. In Chapter 5, Dr. Joe dives into the idea that we're wired by nature but changeable by nurture. He explains that while our genetics play a huge role in shaping who we are, our environment, habits, and choices can influence how these genes are expressed. This is known as epigenetics. Essentially, it means that while we're born with a certain set of genes, we have the ability to turn them on or off, depending on the experiences and environments we expose ourselves to. Think of your genes as a set of light switches in a room. Epigenetics is like the hand that flips these switches on or off based on the cues it receives from your environment. For example, if you grow up in a supportive and nurturing environment, it could switch on genes associated with confidence and resilience. Conversely, a stressful or traumatic environment might activate genes linked to anxiety or depression. Dr. Joe's insights suggest that we aren't slaves to our genes. We can actively influence them by changing our environment, habits, and thought patterns. Dr. Joe encourages us to take control by choosing environments that uplift and inspire us. Surrounding ourselves with positive influences, engaging in learning, and cultivating meaningful relationships can trigger genes that promote mental well-being and personal growth. He also talks about the importance of healthy habits, like regular exercise and a balanced diet, as these too can influence gene expression. The science of epigenetics reveals that change is not only possible, but can happen on a biological level, proving that we have more control over our lives than we ever imagined. So, if our genes aren't set in stone, what else can we change? In the next chapter, we'll explore the concept of neuroplasticity and how our brains adapt to new knowledge and experiences. Chapter 6. Neuroplasticity. How knowledge and experience change and evolve the brain. Neurons that fire together, wire together. This isn't just a catchy phrase. It's the foundation of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself. Did you know that every experience and thought you have can physically reshape your brain? Chapter 6 introduces us to the groundbreaking concept of neuroplasticity. Dr. Joe explains that our brains are not fixed. They are malleable, constantly reshaping in response to new knowledge and experiences. When we learn something new, connections between neurons are strengthened, creating new neural pathways. This process allows us to develop new skills, break old habits, and even change our personalities. Imagine wanting to learn a new skill, like playing the guitar. Each time you practice, neurons in your brain fire and create stronger connections, making it easier for you to play. The same principle applies to mental habits and thought patterns. If you repeatedly think positive, empowering thoughts, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with confidence and optimism. Over time, these thought patterns become your default way of thinking, showing just how powerful neuroplasticity can be in transforming our lives. Dr. Joe also delves into the role of emotions in neuroplasticity. Positive emotions can enhance learning, while negative emotions can create deeply rooted, often harmful patterns in the brain. This is why emotional regulation is so important. By learning to manage our emotions, we can make sure that the neural pathways we strengthen are aligned with growth, resilience, and positivity, rather than stress or anxiety. Neuroplasticity proves that change is within our control, but how do we put this knowledge into practice? In Chapter 7, Dr. Joe shows us exactly how to take our understanding and apply it to reshape our lives. Chapter 7. Putting knowledge and experience into practice. Have you ever read a book, felt inspired, and then done nothing about it? You're not alone. Dr. Joe calls this the knowing-doing gap, and in this chapter, he reveals how to bridge it so you can truly evolve. In Chapter 7, Dr. Joe tackles the gap between knowing and doing. He explains that it's not enough to simply understand concepts like neuroplasticity or epigenetics. To change our lives, we need to put this knowledge into action. This means developing daily practices that align with our goals and actively working to create new thought patterns and behaviors. One of the key insights Dr. Joe shares is that consistency is crucial. Change doesn't happen overnight. It requires regular practice and commitment. He suggests starting with small, manageable steps, such as setting aside time each day to reflect on your goals, engage in mental rehearsal, or practice mindfulness. By making these small efforts a part of your daily routine, you gradually strengthen the neural pathways associated with your desired behaviors. Dr. Joe also emphasizes the importance of visualization and emotional rehearsal. By vividly imagining yourself achieving your goals and feeling the emotions associated with success, you train your brain to recognize these experiences as familiar. This makes it easier for you to take action in real life, as your brain is already primed for success. Visualizing your goals in detail not only builds confidence, but also creates a sense of familiarity, reducing the fear of stepping into unknown territory. Now that we understand the importance of practice, let's dig into the science of survival. In Chapter 8, a crucial element for understanding how our bodies respond to stress and how we can overcome it. Chapter 8. The chemistry of survival. Did you know that every time you feel stressed, your body is flooded with chemicals that were originally meant to help you survive? But in today's world, these chemicals can do more harm than good. In Chapter 8, Dr. Joe dives into the chemistry of survival. When we face a threat, our body releases stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol to help us either fight or flee. This response was vital for our ancestors, who faced life-threatening situations daily. However, in modern times, we experience stress from non-life-threatening situations, like work pressure or social conflicts. Unfortunately, our bodies still react as if we're in danger. Chronic stress keeps our bodies in a constant state of alert, which over time can lead to various health problems, including weakened immune function, increased risk of heart disease, and even mental health issues like anxiety and depression. Dr. Joe emphasizes that understanding this stress response is the first step in managing it. By recognizing when we're triggered and learning techniques to calm our body, we can mitigate the effects of stress. To combat stress, Dr. Joe recommends practices like deep breathing, meditation, and mindfulness. These techniques help lower cortisol levels and bring the body back to a state of calm. By regularly engaging in relaxation techniques, we can train our brain and body to respond to stress in a healthier way, reducing the harmful effects of chronic stress over time. Now that we know how survival chemistry works, it's time to look at how emotions can become addictive in Chapter 9. Yes, you heard that right. Emotions can be as addictive as substances. Chapter 9. The chemistry of emotional addiction. Did you know that emotions can be as addictive as drugs? You might be unknowingly hooked on feelings of stress, anger, or even sadness. Sounds surprising? Let's uncover how this happens and what it means for our lives. In Chapter 9, Dr. Joe introduces us to the concept of emotional addiction. He explains that our emotions, whether positive or negative, create chemical reactions in our brains. Over time, we can become addicted to certain emotions because our bodies crave the chemicals they produce. For instance, someone who experiences frequent anger will get used to the adrenaline rush it brings, and their body may start craving that reaction. Imagine feeling anxious every time you face a deadline. That anxiety releases chemicals like cortisol and adrenaline. Over time, your body starts to expect this chemical hit, and even craves it. This can lead to a cycle where you subconsciously create or amplify situations that will produce the desired emotional response, just to feed the addiction. Dr. Joe explains that emotional addiction is particularly harmful because it keeps us locked in negative cycles, limiting our growth and well-being. Breaking free from emotional addiction requires conscious effort and self-awareness. Dr. Joe suggests mindfulness practices as one way to interrupt these cycles. By observing our emotional responses without judgment, we begin to understand what triggers them and can take steps to avoid reinforcing these patterns. Meditation, visualization, and deep breathing are powerful tools in this process. Over time, we can rewire our brains to replace addictive negative emotions with healthier ones, such as gratitude and compassion. Emotional addiction may feel like a trap, but there's a way out. In Chapter 10, Dr. Joe reveals how we can take control of the brain's most powerful region, the frontal lobe, to transform our thoughts and actions. Chapter 10. Taking control of the frontal lobe in thought and action. Imagine having a control center in your brain that shapes your thoughts, decisions, and actions. Now, imagine learning how to harness it to create the life you've always wanted. That's what we're about to explore. In Chapter 10, Dr. Joe dives into the role of the frontal lobe, the most evolved part of our brain responsible for functions like reasoning, decision-making, and goal-setting. It's where we process abstract thoughts, plan for the future, and imagine new possibilities. Essentially, the frontal lobe is our inner CEO, and when we learn to consciously engage it, we can gain control over our thoughts and actions, steering our lives in the direction we choose. Dr. Joe explains that the frontal lobe's power is activated through focused attention. When we concentrate intensely on a goal or vision, the frontal lobe lights up, and this mental energy starts shaping our behavior. For example, if you focus on a specific goal, like developing a healthier lifestyle, the frontal lobe starts making decisions aligned with that goal, subtly guiding you toward healthier choices. This is why visualization and mental rehearsal are so effective. They prime the frontal lobe to turn thoughts into reality. Dr. Joe suggests that regularly practicing mindfulness can strengthen the frontal lobe's influence over our lives. By setting intentions each day, we keep the frontal lobe focused on what truly matters to us. For example, if you set an intention to be more positive, your frontal lobe becomes more attentive to uplifting experiences and less reactive to negativity. Over time, this intentional focus can reshape your outlook and help you develop new habits, allowing you to take full control over your mind's most powerful region. With the power of the frontal lobe, we can reshape our lives, but how do we make these changes last? In the next chapter, Dr. Joe delves into the art of mental rehearsal, a powerful tool for embedding these changes deep into our consciousness. Chapter 11, the art and science of mental rehearsal. Picture an athlete preparing for a race. Hours before the event, they're not just stretching or warming up. They're closing their eyes, visualizing every step, every breath, every moment of that race. What if you could use the same technique to rehearse your success in any area of life? Chapter 11 introduces us to the transformative power of mental rehearsal. Dr. Joe explains that when we visualize ourselves achieving our goals, our brain doesn't distinguish between real and imagined experiences. By vividly imagining ourselves succeeding, we create new neural pathways that prepare us to achieve our goals in real life. It's as if we're training our brain to believe we're capable, long before we actually take action. Dr. Joe encourages us to practice mental rehearsal for any goal we're serious about. For instance, if you're working towards a promotion, visualize yourself confidently handling your responsibilities, interacting with colleagues, and achieving milestones. By mentally rehearsing these scenarios, you're priming your brain to respond with confidence and clarity when similar situations arise in reality. This technique is used by top performers across all fields because it aligns the mind and body, creating a sense of preparedness. Dr. Joe emphasizes that mental rehearsal becomes even more powerful when paired with emotion. By not only visualizing the outcome, but also feeling the joy, pride, or satisfaction associated with achieving it, we embed these images more deeply into our subconscious. This is because emotion serves as a glue for memory, helping us remember and internalize what we rehearse. This combination of visualization and emotion is key to manifesting the changes we want to see in our lives. Mental rehearsal equips us with the mindset for success, but how do we evolve into the best versions of ourselves? In Chapter 12, Dr. Joe explores what it means to truly evolve our being. Chapter 12, Evolving Your Being. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Dr. Joe takes this concept to heart in his final chapter, urging us to tap into our highest potential. In the concluding chapter, Dr. Joe explains that evolving our being involves aligning our thoughts, emotions, and actions with the person we want to become. It's about living beyond just survival, reaching a state of higher consciousness, where we're guided by purpose, inner peace, and a sense of connection with something greater than ourselves. To evolve, we must embody the qualities of our ideal self in each moment, making every thought, word, and action a reflection of who we truly want to be. Dr. Joe encourages us to adopt a perspective he calls the observer. By becoming the observer, we learn to detach from reactive emotions and impulsive actions, allowing us to respond to life from a place of wisdom and calm. This elevated perspective helps us make conscious choices that are aligned with our goals and values. Rather than getting entangled in daily stresses or ego-driven desires, we can respond with purpose, maintaining a clear vision of the person we aspire to be. Dr. Joe explains that to evolve our being, we must shift from living as reactors to becoming creators. Reacting is automatic, often driven by past experiences and emotional addictions. Creating, on the other hand, is intentional. It means setting your own course, making decisions based on your higher self, and manifesting the life you envision. Living as a creator requires discipline, but it also brings a profound sense of fulfillment and purpose, as each day becomes an opportunity for growth and transformation. So, throughout Evolve Your Brain, we've explored the depths of the mind and its incredible potential for change. From understanding our genetic makeup to practicing mental rehearsal, and from breaking emotional addictions to evolving our very being, each chapter has provided us with tools to become the architects of our lives. If you found any part of this journey insightful or inspiring, hit the like button, share this video with others, and don't forget to subscribe for more transformative content. Comment below on which part resonated most with you, and let us know how you plan to start evolving your brain.